Hi, this is Paul Banis of GreatDad.com, and I'm here with Chelle Johnson, who is a coach in Denver, Colorado area. And we're going to be talking today about positive intelligence. And I'd like to welcome you, Chelle.
Super excited to be here, Paul. Thanks for having me.
So Chelle can be found at thebestyouadvantage.com, and you are what you call a career resilience consultant and strategist. I'd love to know a little bit more how you're coaching, how that the intersection of those two things, which that sounds more like a career coach.
So there's a lot of career coaches. When I talk about career resilience, I'm talking about just what we're going to talk about in positive intelligence today is coming at it from what is your purpose? What is your clarity? How do you bring that resilience into not just a job search, but longer focus of getting that advancement or that promotion, or being resilient through huge transformation of growth companies or companies that are transitioning folks out, like ExxonMobil got rid of 25% of their workforce. What happens through that? I help people live abundantly by really focusing on what is their purpose, what is their clarity, and what is their voice, their vision, and their visibility for living their best life of abundance. And that's what I mean by resilience.
And I love the fact that that you come from a business background yourself. You aren't a self-styled coach helping people, even though you haven't had that background. You've got an MBA like I do from Thunderbird and a background in business, and now are helping people who are more seasoned careers working through all this.
That's exactly right. So I was a director at a Fortune 50 company until 2019. And so
that's recent.
Yeah, very recent. Most of my background is in larger businesses like Lockheed Martin, Quest Diagnostics in Arizona, or Honeywell. And so my experience is I've actually hands-on, I've got insider industry knowledge, and now I'm putting that to work so that others who are still inside of small, startups to large enterprises know how to have a lot more resilience and positive intelligence and mindfulness in their life, not just their career.
I love that, because quite often I'm in California, but the tendency out here is to go, oh, it's all like crazy coaching, but the marriage of the real practical experience, because you know how difficult it is in large corporations, just managing through them, and then that intersection of what the person is all about. And that's what coaching is so great at, is trying to take the reality on one hand, because there are realities in the world. We can't all be astronauts or rock stars, but marrying those realities with those personal values, and what we say in coaching, living your purpose or living your values, makes for a happier individual. What do you find in the people that you're coaching is their biggest challenges in navigating this the pandemic world and just the massive change in corporations today?
Well, they feel paralyzed and they feel lost. They used to be able to go to a location and be able to see face to face, eye to eye with their boss, their peers, their leaders, and being home and having, for me, for example, Paul, homeschooling my kids for a year when I'm not a teacher, right? And starting my own business. And so the biggest areas of opportunity are feeling that connection. And my signature podcast, what I usually talk about is how to amplify your own awesome. And what I mean by that is how to amplify your connection to yourself so that you are resonating at a higher level, so that you are connecting truly to your heart and your wisdom. But then also think about how that when people are trying to speak their own voice and tell their authenticity, how they're resonating with others. And so we're going to talk about positive intelligence, but it's really about helping people get out of their own way, because their inner critic is sabotaging and lying to them, and helping them feel better. And I've had so many examples of a top military leader in Afghanistan went through one of my programs through Positive Intelligence, and how he was able to help his troops feel so much better and him be a better leader and a better husband, even though he was remote. So his wife also went through the program, and she was able to leave a corporate job, get more money being a contractor, have more time for her family, and actually do more volunteer work for spouses of military. So that's just one family that Positive Intelligence was able to help. So that was kind of a long-winded answer to your question, and maybe some preeminent stories that we can talk about once we actually get into Positive Intelligence.
Yeah, well, unless there's something else you want to talk about specifically about your practice and what your philosophy is, we can jump right in.
Yeah, my philosophy is that you can't be the best employee unless you are your best self, which is why I call my company Best You. I went through all these iterations of names, and it really is about being your best. And I use Positive Intelligence plus some very strategic and proven career strategies. And that's why my clients are landing faster jobs. And my average increase in pay right now is 24%.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, even in a COVID era. So,
especially if you talk about that in terms of not only did they get an increase in salary, but they're living closer to their values. I mean, in coaching, we always talk about being pushed by your fears or pulled by your passions. And when you're pulled by your passions, I love that, the idea that you're not only pulled by your passions, but you're making more money.
Well, because you know how to pulled by your passions, yes. And you know how to authentically ask for what you're worth and not have those fears that really are just pieces of your brain, your inner critic and your judge giving you fear about and sabotaging your success.
Yeah, I think people can really feel that. They can feel the energy you bring when you are excited about what you're doing or what you're bringing to an organization, how you feel. Yeah. They can feel that immediately, and they want more of that. Organizations want that kind of energy. They want that self-motivated person who's really into things. So that's wonderful. So in Positive Intelligence, what is it about the program that you think is the strongest? I mean, there's so many components about it, and I talk about it on my website. You've got a link on your website, thebestyouadvantage.com. Do you have any favorites that you like the most?
Really what I like is that it interrupts your day and that it allows you to navigate and activate life in a different manner. But what I really love about it is it increases self-awareness and self-compassion for you being your own worst judge.
Right.
It's really that simple. There are a lot of components to it. But when you just take it back to, if you do the work will absolutely help you have more compassion. And then that living towards your values and having that resilience just comes more naturally because you're listening to your wisdom and your sage versus listening to all this survival brain and chatter that just hijacks you all the time.
I'm hearing a lot of different things in there. One, the mind chatter is just huge, and some people can really understand that a lot better than maybe others. Mine kind of went away a little bit when I had kids, but I mean, for some people, that mind chatter is just overwhelming all the time. And if that is your issue, Positive Intelligence is really good for it. But the other big thing was the fact that it gives you structure to slow some of this down and change the way of thinking, because a lot of things that Positive Intelligence does is rooted in things that psychologists and neurologists, neuroscientists have known for years: plasticity of the brain, changing the way we think, a lot of different real sound theories and knowledge, but put in a structure that you follow it every day and actually do the work, as we say, to change the way you approach problems.
You're exactly right. I mean, it is that simple. That the book Positive Intelligence focuses a lot on the science behind it, because I think people think so much and overanalyze, hyper-rationalize everything. If you just bring it down to simple routine processes and you stick with it, it really does do the simple thing of having you look at life much more simply and easily.
Yeah. So maybe we should talk about some of those anecdotes. I know I've had a lot of success with my clients, but you sound like when we talked a little bit before that you've had so many you can't even, you're worried we won't have time to cover them all. And I love to talk about those.
So we talked about Owen. He is in Afghanistan currently. His situation was, pretty dire. His wife is changing roles, and he just was in a.
So his wife was here. His wife was still in the States, and he was.
Yes, his wife works here and lives here with their kids. He was able to perform better and have his Army, the soldiers perform better as well. Really helped him get through some stress. I have another client that was a vice president of product for an IT company, and he went through positive intelligence, and he was able to decrease the mind chatter and that monkey mind or the ping pong, mind. And he actually wrote a book. Before he was in product, he actually was the CEO of a detox center for rehab. And he wrote a book, 30-Day Survival Guide to Addiction, that's been published and internationally recognized. So I have another client who is an IT healthcare executive, and he was so afraid to network and put his voice out there because he felt like a burden. Mm-hmm. And after the program, he feels like it's natural that he's just talking to humans, and that he uses his wisdom, and people absolutely love him once they get to know him. So it's really helped with his interviews, and it's helped with his confidence. Mm-hmm. And those are just 3 stories. Mm-hmm. I have more if you'd like me to continue.
Well, the last one interests me because it gets to a point of one of the major points about positive intelligence is that we have this thing that we call the judge that is constantly evaluating, and it comes out of it's an evolutionary thing. It comes from way back hundreds of thousands of years ago, that we need to sort out the world really fast: friend or foe, fight or flight, all those different things. So you've got this voice in your head, and then that voice is aided by these 9 saboteurs that they can live in. They have different strengths depending on the person, but they exist in all of us: the hyper rational, the stickler, the hyper vigilant. Yeah. And then and taming those voices is really key to this whole issue, this whole human dilemma, human problem of trying to get through your day, not being too negative, but trying to find positive solutions that don't fit into a world, or aren't the same as the world that our mind was developed to react in.
Exactly. And it's on positiveintelligence.com. You can take an assessment to learn what your 9 saboteurs are. You also can get your PQ score to kind of find out how you're doing on the positivity index and scale. So for your listeners, positiveintelligence.com, the second menu item to click is assessments. The third is PQ score. And I really encourage and recommend people watch the TED Talk on the site. It's under Shirzad's name to learn more about that. But yep. I mean, I have another story of a woman who she literally just got through the positive intelligence program. She left her past role. She was lost. She was so paralyzed by fear. She was feeling completely deflated and very depressed and disconnected from her own purpose. We put her through the 6-week program, and I did coaching sessions along with that. She left her company. She got a new position, which paid more money, working remotely from home, which allowed her to really focus on what she loves doing. In 4 weeks after starting, she was actually able to get 100% on her audits of her projects to build amazing credibility and rapport with her boss and her peers. And the person who we started with, the whole demeanor, the whole happiness quotient, she feels connected. Things at home have gotten better. Her confidence has increased, and her ability to be creative and innovate and navigate life is now back where she's performing at a much higher level.
Yeah, I know listeners are going to say, like, this sounds like just too good to be true, but I had the same
really
reaction. Some people's path is a little bit longer, and
Yeah.
6 weeks is just really an introduction. This is a really a lifelong process. You could that it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to involve the same amount of money as the first initial part does, but it is a lifelong process of learning these skills. But I got the same kind of reviews from my clients. They say transformative, fundamentally changed the way I look at life. It is really amazing. And as a coach, it's really exciting to see that when you're really adding that kind of value.
Well, I'm so excited for you and your clients. That's great that you've had the same results.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, I think as coaches, that's what we're in it for, is to help people. And when you see changes, usually in coaching, the changes are not that miraculous. And
no. And in some, you get into what you put into it. And if it's like a chore, and if your judge is telling, oh, I don't have time for this, well, your judge is lying to you. You do have time for it, because it's only like 2-minute segments,
right? Maybe
10-minute segments, right? You can go and you take a bathroom break that's longer than that, right? You go get coffee or whatever.
Right.
It's really the change that you see in yourself, though, too.
Yeah.
As a coach, of having less fear and actually going into it with our purpose pulling us to help others. So it's been such a gift in my life.
Yep. Well, I always love to end these conversations with actually demonstrating a positive intelligence, what we call a PQ rep or a PQ gym session. And when you're in the positive intelligence course, you go through a series of these during the day that are set during different times, and you go into the PQ gym. We call some of the program actually mental fitness, because there is this whole gym analogy. But the exercises are really meant to, when you're alerted to the judge, you stop for a second and you use these exercises to stop the mind chatter and move your brain into what we call the sage perspective, which is more the positive way of interacting with a situation. But stopping that brain chatter is not an easy thing. And Chelle's going to demonstrate how this works, or give you a feeling for this exercise. And it's important to reiterate that while you're going through it, if you try to do it along with Chelle, that if your mind starts to wander and starts to have thoughts of, what do I need to do later? I need to pick up the kids or whatever. That is completely normal. And you're just trying to teach your mind gradually, and over years it might take, where you could really get into the zone and not think about anything. But letting your mind starting to wander is you're not failing. You're not, it's not that you're not trying and doing a good job.
Exactly. You're safe. You're not failing. And if you have that mind chatter or that monkey mind or that inner ping pong, it's okay. Just let it go. So the reason I looked down is I was setting my timer for 2 minutes.
Okay.
And let's get started.
Okay. I will close my eyes. You don't have to, you can turn off your camera if you want to, but I'll close my eyes and I'm not embarrassed.
Okay. I'm going to close my eyes as well.
Okay.
I just want the audience to get comfortable in a chair, have their posture be natural, and their feet on the floor. Let's take a breath in. Hold that breath. Let it out. We're going to be focusing on looking at something that you may not have noticed. I'm looking at a piece of grass. Look at that piece of grass and just focus on it. Let any thoughts that you have just float away. They're floating away on a cloud or dissipating. What is it about that piece of grass that you never noticed before? Is it a different color green than the other pieces? Notice the different hues of green that you're focusing on. What is that piece of grass? Is it hard because there's been no rain, or is it soft and is the wind taking it back and forth? What is it about that particular piece of grass that draws your attention? Notice the roots underneath the grass. Notice the focus of what you are bringing forth. What's the difference in how you're feeling now? Again, let any thoughts just go. By focusing on just one thing, your mind is letting things go and you're feeling lighter. You're feeling focused. Keep focusing on that piece of grass and notice how the other pieces of grass complement it to show the beauty of nature with that one piece. Now, gaze at it from a little bit farther. Take your gaze out a little bit. How does that piece of grass change? How do the colors change? Does the texture change? Reflect on how this gaze has allowed you to see things differently through a new view. Now let's focus back inward. Come look at that piece of grass with a new vision of how beautiful it is and the textures that it brings to the overall landscape. Let your thoughts dissipate. Let things go. Let's take a breath in and out. Again, in and out. Come back to your vision of what's in front of you. And remember that feeling of focus and the beauty of nature.
Very good. That was very empowering, very interesting exercise. A little bit different than some of them that we've heard before. I appreciate that.
It was a little different. I think I talked a little bit too much. But I've never had to do that. Like, we don't do that in my pods. I have two. But I like that. I really like that.
Well, it just goes to show that the positive intelligence exercises can be done by anyone within the app and within the program. They're pre-recorded and they're on your phone and you can access them easily, but you can also do them for yourself or for people who are in the pod with you when you're going through the program. So they're always right there, very portable.
Cool.
Well, Chelle, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. Again, your website is thebestyouadvantage.com. You've got resources, lots of articles about a whole bunch of things about navigating career change, trying to be the best you can at work, thinking through all kinds of things related to work life, as well as details on your positive intelligence pods and when you're running them.
That is correct. It's bestyoucareeradvantage.com.
Okay, sorry.
I know it's kind of long, but the reason I named my company is I really want everybody to be their best self. And I definitely think positive intelligence has helped me personally and as a coach to get the most out of my clients.
Okay, great. Paul Bass, greatdad.com. Again, thanks again to Chelle Johnson for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay.